when he first hit the scene, it was grainy videos of him lifting unbelievable weights at 17 years old.
You put a treadmill at a 12 incline and 3 miles per hour and you walk on it for 30 minutes. Seems simple and boring, right? I'll be honest with you, this kind of revolutionized my approach.
If you're not as hyped as could be for the heaviest weight ever lifted off the floor, I don't know what gets you excited.
Welcome to Strength Weekly, the weekly YouTube/social media/ general internet show that keeps you updated on everything from the barbell game. I'm David Thomastow, and I am joined by the intrepid, the incomparable, and the very strong Philip Bleckman. All right. First off, Olivia Reeves in the 71 kilogram category at the IWF Grand Prix in Doha puts on one of the best performances in recent USA weightlifting memory and actually scores the heaviest clean and jerk for a non-super heavyweight American woman ever, which is something really cool. Karlos Nassar of Bulgaria comes back from a gnarly injury and does seemingly the impossible, puts himself right back into the Paris Olympics conversation when most folks thought he would be out for potentially years. Really amazing story there. Then we have the heaviest deadlift of all time, 505 kilograms. Who did that? Why did they do that? How did they do that? We've got that information and more. And then finally, one of my favorite things to talk about, 12-3-30. It's not just a social media fad anymore. It might actually work. Before we get to that, make sure you subscribe to Barbend on YouTube and social platforms. We're either at Barbend or Barbend News on pretty much every social platform. Give us a follow. It'll make us feel good about ourselves. We can all use that. Get in the holiday spirit. Phil, which of our stories today are you personally most excited about?
You know, it's nice that we have a fully stacked show. But if you're not as hyped as could be for the heaviest weight ever lifted off the floor, I don't know what gets you excited, you know?
Okay. Calm it down, Phil. Too much excitement. Too much excitement. Have some decaf coffee.
That's all decaf. That's a giant pot of decaf.
That's all a giant pot of decaf. Let's dive in. At the IWF Grand Prix in Doha, Qatar, Olivia Reeves, lifting as a 71 kilogram athlete, puts on a performance for the ages, goes 6 for 6, sets more junior world records than we can count. Yeah, she's still a junior, and just so happens to clean and jerk the heaviest weight ever for a non-super heavyweight American woman. And by the way, it's not like she's in the weight class below super heavyweight. She's a few weight classes down, so really impressive performance. Phil, you want to give us her kind of tail of the tape for the day?
I would love to give us Olivia Reeves' tail of the tape. So in the snatch, she hit 115 kilograms. That's a junior world record. In the clean and jerk, she scored 147 kilograms. That's a junior world record. And for the total, that capped out to 262 kilograms. Guess what? A junior world record.
The most important thing to keep in mind is it establishes her as the odds-on favorite to qualify for the Paris Olympics in one of the most stacked weight categories in American Olympic history. Now, she's lifting as a 71 kilogram athlete. Phil, who is trailing behind her in the American system?
So right behind her are also well-known names that our audience will likely recognize as Meredith Alwine and Kate Viber-Davis. Both of them are also in the running for sure. At the 2024 games, the quota for athletes in weightlifting was decreased. So it is going to be pretty strategic on each country to put forth who they actually think is their best lifter in each category, because they will only allow to put forth one. So this is not a chance that you will not see multiple athletes from the same country on the podium. It's going to be a tight race, but that's what happens with all of the drug testing that went down. But hopefully that changes in 2028. But for 2024, it's going to be a smaller athlete quota, and Reeves is now in the lead.
Yeah. Still a lot of lifting to go between now and Paris, but we will be keeping our eyes on it. And for me, this is probably the most exciting story and the most exciting race for Olympic qualification among American athletes. I think it's almost hands down that's the case. Well, let's move on to another impressive and maybe borderline inspiring weightlifting story. Karlos Nassar of Bulgaria. Phil, give us the quick Cliff Notes, if you don't mind, on who this dude is.
Yeah, so he's a 19-year-old Bulgarian weightlifter who, I mean, whenever this guy has a barbell in his hands, you expect something monumental to happen, is what it seems like every time he's on camera. So he competed in the 89 kilogram class at the IWF Grand Prix in Qatar, and he lifted 223 kilograms, which For those who don't know what that number means, that's 1 kilogram over the previous world record held by China's Tian Tao. So it was a monumental lift.
This guy, Nassar, was the young gun and was really on track to kind of be the favorite, at least the most exciting lifter in this category when it came to Paris and Paris qualification, going to that last period of Paris qualification. In May, he hurts his Achilles. Achilles injuries for weightlifters, they can sideline them.
That's career-threatening almost.
It is career-threatening. He came back in the same calendar year, comes back, wins this Grand Prix against some stiff competition, and by the way, sets a new clean and jerk world record, and amazingly puts himself back in pole position as the guy to beat in this weight category just a few months after we assumed he was going to be a non-factor in Paris. Phil, I can't actually think of another story quite like this in recent weightlifting memory.
I still recall when he first hit the scene, it was grainy videos of him lifting unbelievable weights at 17 years old. And then he comes in at 18. He's now a notable name. He then gets injured. He comes back less than a year later, and he's setting this mark of a kilogram above the world record. Just for posterity, is the rest of the tale of his tape was he snatched 170 kilograms and he hit a 393 kilogram total, which did earn him the overall gold in addition to that deadlift world record. So, and one thing to also note, dude is still a junior lifter. He's not even 20. What was I doing? What were we doing at 19? I was probably having cookies or something.
I was definitely eating cookies, but doing a lot of other stuff not appropriate for this recording. I want to point out that he took that world record back from Tian Tao of China, who some people have speculated. There's been rumors on the internet that Tian Tao is my cousin. And I'm just going to say right now, I have no proof to the contrary, right? But if it is true that we are related, however distantly, it's pretty clear he got different genes than I did. Because your boy don't lift like that. Your boy don't
big
lift
exclusive. It's a big exclusive, David. Big exclusive.
We both have good hair. Tian Tao's got some flow, and mine's a little curlier. I just got a haircut. But we both, this maybe the similarity between me and Tian Tao is from the forehead up, certainly not in the musculature and weightlifting ability from the neck down.
Luckily, if you want to join the top ranks, though, you just can lop the hair off a little bit further and drop a weight class, and that will help your lifts.
I actually did that. Once when I was lifting. Anyway, Phil, I'm gonna just toss this one up. This is gonna be the softest of alley oops because we're gonna transition from weightlifting to powerlifting / strongman / we don't really know because this was unofficial. It's not a world record because this lift that we're going to talk about is unofficial in both strongman and powerlifting competition. However, the heaviest deadlift of all time off the ground, 505 kilograms, just happened. And that's big news. It might be why you're still watching at this point in the broadcast. Let's be honest. Phil, what was the weight? Who done pulled it? How did they done pull it? And why is it important?
On December 2nd, 2023, Venceslav Dimitrov deadlifted 505 kilograms, which is 1,113 pounds. That's a lot of weight at the 2023 Eisenhart Black competition in Bavaria. Now, what does that mean? That means that he lifted 4 kilos over what was the previously heaviest ever pull by Hafthor Bjornsson, well-known strongman, coming back to the Arnold Strongman Classic in 2024. That'll be big news. So the record goes 500 kilograms, it's Eddie Hall in 2016, strongman, to 501 kilograms, that's Hafthor Bjornsson, just to one-up Eddie Hall, essentially. Literally one-up. And then Venceslav comes out of nowhere. Now, this guy, he lifted in sumo. He was wearing lifting straps. It's not an official lift. We get it. It's entirely different from the fact that Hall and Bjornsson, who are also in the 500-kilogram club, lifted in conventional stances. But the fact that a human can lift this amount is still noteworthy by every metric. Yes, the range of motion isn't as much as a conventional deadlift. Yes, he was wearing lifting straps and it wasn't raw. Yes, it wasn't drug tested. We don't know what was going on necessarily. But he lifted the most ever, okay? The most ever, 505 kilograms. It's unbelievable. So
you're channeling some Stephen A. Smith there. I absolutely love it.
It's preposterous. It's blasphemous how much weight this guy lifted off the ground. Okay?
That's exciting. And you know what? He's an athlete that I really didn't have on my radar, to be honest with you.
Did anybody? That's the thing. Did anybody? I mean, you go over to his social media, dude's been lifting 450 kilograms, 465 kilograms. Like, the weight that he's pulling off the ground. I mean, yeah, he's casually doing these lifts. I mean, yes, he's using Texas barbells or whatever, so they have more bend and the range of motion isn't necessary. But, like, dude's locking this stuff out. He's locking it out. Okay? It's heavy. It's heavy. He's a guy who lifts heavy. That's the news, David. He's a guy who lifts heavy.
You killed my segue, Phil. No, it's fine. I was going to say, well, let's lock it out and get to our final segment of the day. How's that for an awkward transition?
That was beautiful.
David Tao. I'm here to make it weird all day. David Thomas Tao. We're going to talk about our strength tip of the week, which isn't really a strength tip, but more of a health, cardio, leaning out, don't lose your gains tip, right? So this is something that I talk about way too much, and everyone tells me to shut up. We're going to talk about 12-3-30, the social media cardio phenomenon that might actually be one of the best things for strength athletes. And here's what it is. You put a treadmill at a 12 incline and 3 miles per hour, and you walk on it for 30 minutes. Seems simple and boring, right? I'll be honest with you. This kind of revolutionized my approach to wellness in many ways. I love lifting weights, not the biggest cardio fan. I'm always one of those folks who's like, I'll just lift weights faster. I think 12-3-30 is something that started on social media. I want to get the name right. Lauren Geraldo, who is an Instagram influencer, posted about kind of coming across and gradually developing this protocol to get in shape, to lose weight, right, for fat loss. But it's something that's actually, I'm not going to say catching on like wildfire in the strength community, but gradually catching on in the strength community. Someone who I know who's a real big proponent of this is maybe someone who might be an unlikely proponent of this. Bobby Maximus, former UFC fighter. He was involved with Jim Jones. He's like someone who Men's Health called one of the 100 fittest guys of all time. He's like a fitness OG. And when I see Bobby Maximus saying and posting on social, like, hey, I love 12-3-30, actually give it a go. It's an amazing way to stay lean, to help you stay lean, to work on your cardiovascular health, to promote recovery, because even strength athletes improve cardiovascular health. There's a lot of evidence that's actually going to help you with your strength gains. And you're not going to walk off your gains. I see Bobby Maximus posting about this. I'm like, ooh, hold on. There might be something here. There might be something here. Phil, you've got some interesting research queued up about 12-3-30 and how it actually might be impactful for people who like lifting heavy. How could walking like this be important for people who like picking up heavy things?
Well, first and foremost, all of the research to date right now suggests that consistency is more important than literally anything else. So being able to do 12-3-30 and stay consistent with doing that over and over, like throughout the week, constantly, that is the way that you actually get to the results that you want over the long term. So being able to have a program that's simple as 12-3-30 that you can be consistent with, that's the biggest factor. For people who aren't accustomed to this kind of cardio and you jump right in, you're like, oh man, 12 is too much or 3 is too fast at 12 or 30 minutes is too much at that rate. One thing that is also useful, getting a heart rate monitor can help because all the research suggests that for this kind of walking on a treadmill, that the perceived exertion is more than the actual exertion you're putting on your body because it is low impact cardio. And so if you have a heart rate monitor that you can notice where your heart rate is elevated to, and you can sort of gauge that to get up to the 12-3-30 standard and then use that as consistency. But like, if you feel as though when you start this that it is, wow, this is way more difficult than you expected it to be, that is likely just how you are perceiving its difficulty rather than its actual difficulty on your body. That's just a matter of getting your reps in effectively and doing it over time, and then you will gradually get to that pretty quickly. So that's one thing. So the rate of perceived exertion on this is probably higher than the actual toll on your body if you're not accustomed to it. The second thing is the way that your knees position themselves while you're walking in an incline is likely to reduce pain on your knee joint. So this kind of 12-3-30 walking on an incline, healthy for your knees. That's great to know for people who can't run or it hurts to run on a treadmill or do any other kind of cardio. And the other last thing that I want to point out for this is for people who are getting into 12-3-30, as we get older, research has shown that when you're walking on an incline, you naturally favor your dominant side to help you offset any difficulty walking up that hill. So be mindful as you're doing 12-3-30 to keep your gait neutral and not lead towards your dominant side. The research has shown that people who are right leg dominant are more likely to be susceptible to this. So something to keep in mind as we get into 12-3-30, which David and I are both proponents of. That is also what I like to do for cardio because it is not difficult. You can put something on your phone or watch the TV while you're getting your cardio in, and most importantly, you keep those gains.
And you run through podcasts. If you got a backlog of podcasts you want to listen to, whoo, there's no better way to get through that. The other thing I want to point out too, don't grab the handlebars on the treadmill, right? Like you could do it subconsciously. It's very tempting to just like lean, like put your arms on the sides or like lean over. Don't do that. Don't grab the treadmill, right? Those are there for safety. If you slip or something like that, don't do that. You don't need those. You don't need those. You can do it without. You can do it. You can work up to it, right? Other thing I want to say about 12-3-30, I know consistency is important. I try to do this with some consistency. It is the best thing ever for me when it comes to shaking off travel rust, whether you've just kind of like been cooped up on an airplane for a while or you have jet lag or something. I love this. I'm a big proponent of getting an early workout in that's not too difficult, kind of as soon as you land or soon after you arrive somewhere, after plane travel or automobile travel or train travel. Planes, trains, automobiles. Well, it's the time of year. So yeah, those are some tips there. Anyway, Phil and I, big fans of 12-3-30. And let us know your thoughts in the comments. Let us know if you love it, hate it, and let us know if you just hate us. But Phil, that brings us to the end of this week's Strength Weekly. I'm going to express a little gratitude because it's that time of year. Phil, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful to you. I love this. This is one of the high points of my week, recording with you, buddy.
It is a mutual gratefulness. And David, now that we know that your extended family goes into elite lifters, I look forward to your 506 kilogram deadlift attempt.
There will be an attempt. There will be an attempt.
I love to try.
We love to try. Until then, we're Strength Weekly, brought to you by Barbend. Thanks so much for tuning in.